Hi guys, it's Luetin. We're back for another Battlefield Roundtable. This is take two actually, because I screwed up first time round. Okay, joined today by Jake in Intheworksmedia, Matimio, and also today Matt the Musketeer. We're going to be talking about obviously the Xbox reveal and obviously the implications for Battlefield 4, and perhaps talk a little bit about the DLCs and so on and so on. So they've revealed the Xbox One today. We've seen a lot of things about it. There's all sorts of stuff about the hardware, the software, and all the peripheral implications that are therein. Jake, what's your first thoughts about this new system, and what are the implications? So we've obviously looked at already the PS4 and how that's going to play out with Battlefield 4, and there's been a lot of talk about that. But with the Xbox and so on and so on, just what's your kind of general overview for that now?
All right. Well, I don't want to steal Matimio's thunder since we messed up the first take, but
Yeah.
Go for it.
the one thing that I noticed right off the bat was something that I kind of expected is they're going towards more of a like home console. Like it's not really so much focused on gaming. They're trying to like sell it to the average consumer with like all the built-in like motion stuff and like the different media things, the built-in Skype. So it was much more casual than I was expecting, because if you notice, like with PS4, they came out of the gates like, guns
Yeah.
a-blazing. Here's the gaming features, whereas Xbox One, it was more like here's our bonus features. That's kind of
Yeah.
how I felt.
I totally felt that, but I almost felt like they went too hard with that. Like it kind of turned me off a bit.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah, I agree.
okay, what the hell is this? Like,
Well, it could turn off gamers, but it could, for the casual audience, this could be huge, and it could be the huge, like the main selling point, and they could sell probably even more of the consoles, which is what their goal is in the end, is to sell more.
yeah, but potentially that. But then again, like, I mean, I wanted to talk a lot about Nintendo this week. I was going to do some videos about it a little bit, because I feel like, oh my God, what's happened to Nintendo? And I feel like, oh my God, are they going to go the same way? Like, where they sort of alienate their customer base and then end up, when they realize that actually the kind of casual sort of non-gamer market is not quite as solid as they feel it would be. I mean, there's all this talk about like, oh yeah, you can put your TV through it and stuff. I mean, from all that they showed, the TV stuff is not built in to the Xbox. You still have to buy like another thing and then plug it into the Xbox One. And it's like, why would you do that? Like, it seems just like another hassle that's totally unnecessary. I mean, like, what is so difficult right now about watching your TV that you need to have it in the Xbox? I don't get it. I just don't see why.
Yeah,
And
I think that's kind of silly personally too. I didn't understand the point of that at all.
yeah, I mean, Matt, have you got any thoughts about this as well? Like, from your
Yeah,
sort
I saw it was actually I saw your tweet earlier in the day when the stream was when it was the presentation was happening.
don't quote my tweets.
But you said actually pretty much what you just said then. The TV aspect of it. It's something that I already have a TV and I already have the channels that I want, and that isn't something they should be, especially in a first presentation. I thought kind of trying to hard sell to the customer. I thought, at the end of the day, it's a console. No matter what other features it has, its main purpose is to play games. It didn't seem as if that was their main concern in this presentation. As you said, they did show, some games that were quite interesting, but they seem to be really pushing home these new features about Skype and these kind of multi-tools that you could use on screen at once. And it's like you said, it seems like they're going for more of a casual route so far than for the elite gaming that kind of was their route with the Xbox 360.
Yeah, like more and more, I just feel like, come on. We're gamers, like people, it's a game system. That's it. That's what it is. So why the hell are they like pushing all this other stuff? I just don't get it. Like I can't get my head around it. I don't know what you felt, Matt, but like for me as well, I felt like it was a really like US heavy like product. I really did like all the stuff to begin with. It was all about sort of, they were talking about all the what was I thinking of? That was it only
The NFL.
yeah.
NFL,
Oh, well,
yeah.
they went like so heavy, and then like it's fine to mention it and go like, oh, we're going to do this, but then he went on and on and on and on, and I was just like, oh Jesus,
Yeah,
I don't
thought
care.
It did. It did. I seemed to alienate. Obviously, you and me being in the UK, like it was talking about NFL and getting your NFL dream team and stuff. And in a passing comment, fair enough. But like you said, they seem to go on about that for so long that myself and probably any other non-American viewer would kind of felt I didn't know what was going on then, because we don't watch NFL here and we don't have NFL dream teams and all that kind of stuff. So it did seem to alienate non-US viewers, I think.
Let me just say one thing first as well. I just want to make it clear as well that I don't think it's like a bad thing to do that. I don't think it's an awful thing. I just think it's not like a sensible thing to do on your first sort of release. It's like the first thing they're saying, and to kind of be so specific straight away. I mean, the only other thing that I would say about it as well is that obviously Microsoft is a very, US company. It's where it came from. It's where they are situated, etc., etc. So it's like their core base. So therefore, it kind of makes sense that they could say, okay, look, this is our kind of major consumer market. And also, let's not forget the US is massive, a massive economy, massive marketplace for this kind of stuff. So therefore, again, it kind of makes sense for them to sort of focus down on it. However, the reason I mention it as the reason why I felt like it was so unusual that they were sort of so specific on this kind of thing was that if you look at sort of, for example, Sony's presentation, well, they didn't tailor it to Japan, and let's, to be fair, Japan has got some very specific cultural tastes when it comes to sports and all sorts of other things like this, and just in general culture, but they don't go over specific, whereas with this I felt it really was very like US specific, and I don't know, that was just like my general impression from watching it, and I felt like, considering this was the first release, the first reveal, and to be honest, people all around the world would have been watching this, I felt like it would have been much better to go with a more general overview, and then further along they could have gone, look, E3, Christ, they got so much time they could talk about all this stuff at E3, and I felt like I think they would have been better to keep it a little bit more general. So that's just my sort of view on it.
I mean, I watch NFL, and I mean, I like it. But even watching that, I was like, oh, well,
But it's so interactive. You're like, damn.
Yeah, so that's it.
I was like, I think my PC can watch TV, use Skype, and watch NFL all at the same time. I mean, that just may be me, but
nay, no. What do you guys think of? What do you guys think of when they actually showed gaming? What was your guys' impression? I wasn't very impressed with the Call of Duty reveal.
I know that
I was looking for the gameplay, but it didn't happen.
It just ended. It was just like,
yeah.
Boop.
Yeah, what the hell? Like I said this on my tweets. When I got home this evening, I made like a big vlog, which is exporting and uploading right now. I meant it to be like 5 minutes of me going, oh, this is my first thoughts about the reveal. Ended up being like this 20-minute rant of me just like,
You would loot.
Me, yeah, I wouldn't do that now. But yeah, the COD thing. Literally, I was doing stuff at the time, so I was kind of listening and watching, and so I was just like da da da, and I like tabbed out for a minute whilst the thing was playing, because it was just like, blah blah blah, pre-rendered COD. I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, when it comes back in a minute, I'll carry on listening, And then it's just like the sound stopped, and I was like, oh, obviously it stopped buffering or whatever. So I clicked back over to like check the buffer, and it's like, oh, it stopped. Oh, it's finished. Oh, it's finished. Okay, all right. And then I was like, where's the rest? Where's all the sort of, where's all the tech demos? Where's all the stuff like this? Where's like the million block drop like we had for PlayStation 4, which was epic. It was so cool to see that. Where's the really extended playthrough sequences like we had with Killzone and stuff, where you get to see all this environment and you think, holy crap, this looks so epic. Like, just nothing. It was just like, okay, bit of a racing game. Like, okay, it's just
slide the prone.
Yeah,
it was a mixture of, not only was there pre-rendered stuff, but I think wasn't there was even in real life game, like real actors used for like
real life gameplay.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
That blew my mind that they thought that was a good piece of content to put on a release for a console, was just footage of real people. That really,
I got confused. I didn't want to seem stupid and post it on Twitter.
And what was the girl's power? Moving a ship to kill people?
No,
what?
I didn't get it, because I was watching it and I was thinking either that's real footage or these graphics are like out of this world. Like, I just thought, I wasn't sure, because it was like a new thing and I didn't know all the so I didn't want to post up being like, oh my god, look, they put real life footage. I was like, could that be real graphics? I don't know. And then it's like, no, it was just real life footage. But I don't have any problem with using real life footage in games, but why would you put it into where you're trying to showcase the tech power and the kind of capability of the system? Like, it seems a funny thing to do. Anyway, so that in combination with all the other things, again, just was not so impressed. Matimio and Jake, you guys obviously heavily PC players, so I think you guys might have a slightly more objective opinion. You obviously would have watched the PlayStation reveal as well. Out of the two, which do you think sort of performed more favourably, I guess I would say? Jake?
PS4, like by a landslide. Like, I actually was interested in the PS4, and this is coming from someone who's never owned a PlayStation 3. Like, I have a Xbox sitting down at my feet, so I was actually really interested in this, because, if they could bridge the gap a little bit, I would consider getting an Xbox just to have a different medium to play on every now and then.
Yeah.
considering I work on a PC, it's nice to break away from my desk and play games.
What was it that sort of appealed to you the more then, when you
But
saw it?
I don't know. I just felt like PS4 cared more. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, I know it was mostly in presentation, but like it seemed like PS4 cared more about making good content, making a good gaming platform.
Yeah.
A lot of the ideas that were in the PS4, like you could see, like I kind of wonder like how quickly Microsoft like kind of like scurried to get the DVR feature in there, because like, oh crap, PS4 has one. Let's add this into ours.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really talk about it. They're just like, oh, by the way, it's got a DVR.
I am a PlayStation owner. I haven't owned an Xbox, mainly because I just haven't felt the need, but also because I never really have a massive amount of faith in Microsoft as a company. I don't think their products are particularly quality. I always like to roll out my favourites. I always like to roll out my favourite example from the news, which was when it was in like, it was over in the US somewhere, I can't remember where, but it was like, I think it was this massive Microsoft office, and people will know this story already. And these guys broke in, some robbers broke into this building overnight or whatever. They burgled this office building, and there was like, I don't know, several hundred iPads, and there was also several hundred of the what are they called? The touch. What are they called? The
iPod Touch?
No,
the Surface tablet?
Surface, yeah, that's it, Surface, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, so they had like boxes and boxes of Surfaces and also iPads. These robbers took all the iPads but left all the Surfaces. It was like this it was a massively embarrassing story for them, but I think that kind of highlighted my point perfectly, is that I kind of feel like, yeah, Microsoft. So for me, they've kind of never really shook that off. But I mean, Matimio as well, when we're talking about the two different reveals for each system, again, you're like a heavy PC player, but out of the two, do you think one behaved more favorably, and did either really pique your interest at all?
Well, PlayStation 4 by a landslide, but that was mainly just because of the presentation, and also that they were always talking about gaming. The entire their thing was just devoted to it, and the fact that they said that they were going to developers and they were creating a platform that was going to make it easier for them to do whatever they wanted to was a huge highlight. And then you see for the Xbox, they just didn't touch anything gaming related. I don't care if you show a couple sport games and some racing games. That's not what people are really looking for. So yeah, PS4 landslide.
I think it was really half-hearted as well, and also that unbelievably awkward conversation where he's like trying to Skype call his friend, and they've obviously like,
I was totally fake.
It was like pre-rendered, yeah.
What was with the guy trying to sound all hip too? He was like talking with this weird accent, and I'm like, what are you like?
It was so embarrassing. I was just like, oh my god! I think I actually got off out of my chair to do something else while it was really bad.
To be honest, it reminded me of the PS3 presentation when they got up there and he was showing off the PSP, and he was like, "It's got Ridge Racer." I mean, that's famous
that was
thing.
funny. Yeah,
it was on that level of awkwardness.
Oh, they always try to do. It was probably these things where it sounds like an awesome idea at the time. Like, oh yeah, we'll demo this and we can have like a back and forth, and it'll seem like really cool. And it's just like you actually get to doing it, and it's like, oh, it's grindingly awkward. But okay, let me ask you, Matt 2. I'll call you Matt 2 now. Like, Matt, what do you think about between the two, sort of PlayStation 4 reveal and the Xbox reveal?
Like Matimio said, I felt the PlayStation 1, it was all about the gaming, but it was also, I felt that the PlayStation 1, I got this kind of vibe that they did the whole presentation because they wanted to show you what they had, whilst the Xbox One, I couldn't shift this feeling they were doing it because they felt they had to do it because PlayStation have done theirs and they have to now show their hand, and it was kind of this, the whole time I couldn't help but feel they weren't too excited.
Kind of like smoke and mirrors, you know?
Yeah. So, and like you said, it's the PlayStation 1 was all up straight away. They were showing you gameplay of this and gameplay of that, and it just felt, just the whole vibe of it felt, the PlayStation, it felt about gaming, whilst the Xbox felt like it was about some kind of undefined mixed media box that didn't really do much, but it did everything at the same time. Kind of, it really confused me actually. So overall, the Xbox One felt like it should have been a second presentation. They should have done one presentation showing the games, and then at a later date, maybe this presentation showing, look at all these extra features. But as a first presentation, the PlayStation, hands down for me, definitely won in terms of just what they had to show on the day.
I totally agree on that. And the thing is as well, I actually think that the Xbox One, from what, I mean, like Jake showed us earlier before we started recording, the actual specs between the two are very comparable. They're almost the same. So, I don't think you're going to see either system has suddenly massive leaps. And the other thing that's really good is because the PlayStation 4 sort of altered their architecture. So it's going to enable them. This was said that, for example, like in the past where we've seen these bizarre differences between each system, like Xbox, PS4 and PC, hopefully now everything will seem a little bit more linear, and PC players maybe won't have to complain so much about the differences because they will be developed more around a similar architecture in the short term. Long term, well, who knows? I mean, it's another question as well, is, everybody's been saying, well, the specs for these systems are okay right now, but in sort of 5-6 years, are they going to be... Well, again, we don't know what their sort of long-term game plan is. Consoles actually used to turn around quite quickly, sort of 15 years ago. They didn't used to wait for these extended periods of time before updating. This has been quite a new thing, because what happened was with the PS2 and that kind of generation of consoles, they were finding that developers were only starting to get the maximum benefit out of them sort of later in their life, and earlier on they weren't kind of getting grips to sort of what they could actually get out of the system. So they decided, hey, okay, we'll extend the life of the consoles and it'll give developers a better chance to kind of get to grips with the structure and what they can get out of it. Now it's not so much the case, and obviously we see these large leaps in sort of technology advancement, so I think they're going to want to kind of bring and rein in that sort of time period involved there. But I mean, just purely from a presentation point of view, I've got to agree, and I just think that the Xbox, I think they will be able to produce great games because, as I say, the systems are very comparable. All I think is I think they really screwed up this announcement. And I tell you as well, I was worried because for the last month, everybody's been going, well, PS4, they showed their hand early, and Xbox have had all this time to produce this presentation. I've got to say, it kind of undermines my sort of confidence in them, if I even ever had any, that they had all this time, and plus PS4 have already shown their huge presentation, and then they give us this presentation today,
It was kind of cocky.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I find it really weird. Okay, anyway, so let us know your thoughts, guys. What do you think about the Xbox reveal? Did you hate it? Did you like it? Do you think they just literally screwed up the actual reveal, but the system's good as a whole? I have to say, they showed so few games. I think it's very frustrating, but I think that's a big conversation for another day. Let's get on to Battlefield stuff. Battlefield 4 DLCs. Matt, go on, you start us off, seeing as you've had a quite big video today talking about all this. So hit us with it.
Well, thank you. Well, obviously, it's the China Rising, which there's been a little confusion because obviously originally there was all this stuff to do with drone strike, and people saw these posters that said, drone strike, and everyone thought it was going to be very similar to Back to Karkand, where you pre-ordered, you got it with it, and we're looking within a month or so it would come out. But since then, obviously, today we've had this China Rising, and the information is on the Origin store, so it's all it's officially there. It's on the Battlefield website.
Yeah.
And if you pre-order the deluxe edition, apparently only through Origin, according to this poster, you get the China Rising DLC. So it sounds like it's going to be very similar to Back to Karkand, hopefully coming out quite early on in the lifetime of in the lifespan of Battlefield 4. It says 4 maps, new vehicles, new weapons. So it seems like it's following the same mechanic we see with Battlefield 3. This very similar amounts of content within the DLC itself. So imagery-wise, there's nothing too... It's pretty much the exact same picture at a different angle that we already have from the Battlefield 4 poster. So it's pretty interesting, but there's nothing too revealing to be told about it just yet, to be honest with you.
Have you guys pre-ordered? Jake, Timmy, have you guys pre-ordered?
Nope.
No.
Nope. No. I don't ever pre-order games. Like,
See,
the last game I pre-ordered was Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, and that was like the first game I had pre-ordered in like forever, and you couldn't even preload it, so it was pointless.
Yeah. Would this offer, like this new stuff, would it tempt you? Do you think like, oh my god, I've got to pre-order now? Do you think that?
I mean, I'll do it eventually. You could do it the day before, and it'll be...
Yeah.
I mean, you could still probably buy the game on release and still get this bonus. That's how the last one was.
Yeah, it's totally my inclination. I mean, I've already had like a bit of a speech about this week, about talking about how it irritates me, these kind of pre-order things, because I really feel like it's kind of carrot and stick. It's like, go buy our game, and it's just like, seriously, it irritates me. It's kind of like, you're kind of like, sort of, you're teasing us so hard, and it's just like, it's really frustrating. And also, I mean, literally all we've got to go on is this little screenshot. Now, I mean, obviously, if you're like a hardcore Battlefield fan, you don't care. You're going to play this stuff, whatever, you know. It's like, it doesn't matter. So I don't know. It is a little bit frustrating, and also the whole beta thing was, I thought, very funny. I spoke about that a little bit this week, about how obviously like months and months and months ago they're like, yeah, if you want to get into exclusive beta, you've got to do Medal of Honor, blah blah.
Oh,
and now they're just like, oh, and by the way, if you have premium, and it's like, oh, okay. And people are going to shout at me now because I've mentioned this a few times, but it really bugs me, and that's why I keep bringing it up. And it kind of ties in with this DLC thing. But I have to say, I like the sound of this DLC. Matimio, do you like the sound of this sort of China Rising DLC? Do you think it sounds cool, like all the stuff and the artwork kind of, it gives you like a nod of sort of what it could be potentially like. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the one thing that I find interesting is that the dude has got 2 primary weapons, and if that is
Overkill.
if that is what they're going to do for the multiplayer, it really brings in some interesting ways on how they would balance that.
I have to say, yeah, I think it would. I mean, Matt, you said you didn't think it was likely that they would bring that in, and it's just an artwork choice. I have to say, I think through hope more than anything else, I'm leaning that way. I mean, Jake, what do you think? Do you think there's a likelihood they would go with 2 primary?
I mean,
it would, like Matimio says, it would screw it up so hard, wouldn't it? I mean, it would just imbalance everything.
If you look at any of the past artwork, like we've gotten teased like this a million times. I mean, if you remember when the engineer had the M39 with like,
and the machete and the Black Hawk.
So I mean, like we've seen this before, but I think like from a balance standpoint, I played a lot of I used to play Call of Duty. I'll admit it. I still do every now and then, but remember One Man Army and like what's the
you just can't balance
have 2 primaries. It was like you go into battle with an M16, and then it's like, oh, surprise! In close quarters, I also have a AEK.
Yeah, or like a Spaz slug, and it's just like, oh god,
or like a sniper rifle comboed with an M16. You know how ridiculous that would be? Like you could literally snipe from like a million yards away, and then up close you've got an M16. So.
It would defeat the entire point. But I think, actually it kind of raises an interesting point, which is, and a couple of people mentioned this, like people all the time are going, we want more guns. And it's like, I don't want more guns. In fact, if anything, what I thought always worked really well was Battlefield 1943, because you had a very limited kit choice. And you just, I almost feel like sometimes right now when I go to choose a class, I'm like, I just don't know. There's like 10 guns. I don't know what I want to pick today. I just don't know.
Well, it gets to the point where there's so many that they can't do enough to each of them that they basically become carbon copies.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but you also, every time you add more stuff, you exponentially increase the risk that one is going to be imbalanced to another, and it's going to, or worse, cause all sorts of, the more things like that you make, and especially at release, the more stuff you initially release like that, the more chances there are that one of them is going to screw up in one weird way, as we've seen with like the USS Frag and all of these kind of things, the Dart, these kind of things are going to come along and happen the more you do it. I would like to see, and this is just me personally, I would like to see a much more kind of reined in class choice, a more specific class choice, and I think that for Battlefield 4 that would be really good. I don't think that's what they're going to do, because I think the popular thing is for people to have stuff because they like to customize, but for me personally, I would like to see it kind of reined in a little bit. I think the gameplay would benefit from that, but that's just me. Matt, what do you think about that?
I kind of agree. Like you said, having 2 primary weapons, it would be it'd be ridiculous if you got on a close quarters map. The minute you killed someone, you'd straight away swap out for that secondary weapon that they've got as a primary. So you'd instantly, you'd have people running around with an M16 as a first weapon, and then just slug rounds with a USAS as a second weapon. So you'd never win. Having that kind of balance between you've got to make a decision, and you can't just pick up everything and just be the ultimate soldier, like you said with Call of Duty.
Yeah, there's no rock paper scissors to it. Everyone would be good at every target.
Yeah, exactly. There'd be no choice, because you just go, I'll have the best of all of it, and there we go, job done. There's no negatives and positives. That's a good thing at the moment. You have to think, if I take this weapon, it's going to be good at this, but then if he comes around the corner, it's one of those, you've got to pick some of the balances for the situation. Whilst if you can just pick 2 great weapons for either or, then it's not about skill. Then it's not about choice. It's just about getting the best of everything. So no, I don't think that would be that's what I said in that video. I said, hopefully it won't happen, because like you said, in other artwork before, we've seen the Black Hawk, we've seen the machete. So, hopefully it's something that doesn't happen. But we'll have to see, eh?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, I think all of this goes towards the sort of idea of customization, and this was actually, you can kind of tie this in with the Xbox thing. That I thought that was very funny. They were talking about customization in Call of Duty, and they're like, you can change this and this and this and this, and they're going, and look at the detail of the graphics. You can see dirt under his fingernails, and it's like, yeah, because when you're in like a combat situation, there's like bullets everywhere, grenades flying, things on fire, like, you know, a tank explodes next to you. Oh yeah, but look, you can see the dirt under his fingernails. It's like, you know, you so notice that level of detail. But to tie that in, do you say, like, okay, with Battlefield, the reason is people always are going on about how they want more customization for character looks in Battlefield. I don't know about you guys, but me, I've pretty much chosen my kits like when they sort of first were coming out, and I'm like, oh okay, and I unlocked a few of the new ones, and I kind of like, yeah, I kind of like that color. And then this was like 10, 12 months ago, and since then I've never bothered to change it since, And it's like, I don't know. I mean, do you think customization for characters in Battlefield 4 would be a good thing? I mean, I'll tell you one thing was like, you remember with Aftermath, and obviously you had the guys with the slightly kind of different kit, that kind of more rough and ready sort of, I don't know, what would it be, sort of rebel fighter look almost, where they got kind of bandanas and stuff. I actually thought it would have been cool if you had the option to transition that back in. But I mean, yeah, what do you think about customization? For me, I just think it never matters, because you rarely see people long enough to actually think like, oh, I can tell who that is. I mean, Jake, Matimio, what do you guys think about that?
I actually mentioned this in a video I talked about today. I don't really care about player customization and like emblems and all that crap. Like, if anything, like the one thing that I can take away from customization of your character in Battlefield 3 was if, like on Aftermath, I don't know if it's just me, but it's really hard to see people, especially when they're wearing some of those different camos they could have, like as opposed to the other maps. Like I don't seem to have that problem, but like whenever they're like putting on all sorts of different camos, and it just gets to the point where it doesn't really matter. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Certain maps, I mean, I used to think about it, things like, very roughly, things like Sen Crossing, I'd wear a blue camouflage, and I'd try and avoid just wearing a black camouflage. But like you said, it's one of those things where people are moving so quickly, and it's so, you don't actually think, oh, I didn't see him because he's wearing green camo. It's just, it's more about, if you could customize how your soldier looked, like you said, Luetin, between, the kind of rebel look and the more refined soldier look, rather than kind of using a camouflage to try and actually hide against the backdrop. It's just one of those things. It depends how it's trying to be utilized, I think, really, than anything else.
I think it's a bit of fun and stuff, but at the end of the day, it's really not the most important thing at all. So, I think people just don't want to get too bogged down in it. I hear like a lot of talk about it from people sort of like, I want this, especially weapon skins. Although I've got to say, weapon skins, I'm all for weapon skins, because it's something you literally see in game. I think that's my point, it's like you see it, you have it there with you. Whereas with your actual kit itself, you never see yourself in game, do you? When you rarely see people long enough for that. But okay.
The Medal of Honor one comes to mind for their weapon customization. Like, they had a lot of options. Granted, a lot of it didn't change the stats.
Yeah, it didn't change anything.
Right. I mean, you could change some things, but it was mainly just cosmetic, which is cool. And I think if they did that for Battlefield 4, I'd be all for it. But in general, like, I don't see customization being a negative, just as long as it doesn't take away from the game itself.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap up today. This is a short Battlefield Roundtable today, because it's a little bit more sort of on the fly. But we've been talking, obviously, about the Xbox One, the reveal there, so we want to hear your thoughts on that. We also want to hear your thoughts about sort of DLCs and the fact they're kind of packaged onto these pre-orders with Battlefield 4. What's your thoughts about that? And last of all, customization. Is it an important thing for you in game? How much does it matter? And do you think they actually need to bother at all with these kind of, character skins? Should they focus more on kind of weapon customizations and making it feel like something that it's actually kind of right there in front of you, and perhaps that even has some kind of literal effect in game, a little bit more than just a visible look? Maybe it has an ever so slight tweak to your weapons as well. So I want to thank Jake in the works. I want to thank Matimio, Matt the Musketeer, and I'll see you next time, guys, for some more Battlefield Roundtable.